I'm putting on this and stuff in case you want to end it. But yeah, well, technically, no, okay, no, so I'm doing all this in the shower. Okay. Oh. We were at a gas station with miles south of where I live. There was a man in a white truck, and I don't know what I did. I remember I had just walked out with my sister. She was just a little kid. Got me some snacks at a used cafe. Did my mind again, like people do. And when I got settled back in the front seat of the car, I saw a man in a white pickup window ajar. He caught my attention and I looked over to him. He circled the gas station, not a lot but enough to mention. There was a scab inside my belly button, including you. There's something on my elbow from scraping it when I breathe. It drips and doesn't filter when I breathe. It's the same air as those folks. He looked at me, scowled, but I could see past his proud. That maybe in a life before he was falling in love with a woman like me. Maybe he was ashamed, maybe it was in his DNA. I don't know. I don't know. But it was something so powerful in the way he saw me. I've been thinking about it ever since, and it happened 2 years ago. He looked at me, looked good, dirty, but it felt like it was shorter before he decided that he didn't want to be in my presence, and he flipped me off. He flipped me off. An older man, sitting in his 40s or 50s, he flipped me off after just seeing me. After just seeing me, but the look in his eyes, though angry at me, something at me, it looked like he wanted to love me. Now the stickerness is something that you feel deep in your soul. I've experienced racism before, but something about seeing someone's eyes when they do it, it tells a story that has been untold. Love, love, love. He sped away, of course, not really wanting any trouble. Or maybe to go get his friends, maybe the sun downtown, I don't know. I was ready to be gone on the double. I told my mother we gotta go. She didn't understand my worry, so it hurt, but I get it. She's never experienced the vision, but that shit can cost you your life because they're unable to learn. They're unable to learn. They've been ripped away from the warmth of her gaze. The sun who kisses my skin brown. They've been told that it's wrong. Oh, so wrong, or maybe his thought I'd change my gender around. Either way, whatever it was in his face said something so deep, like he missed the way it feels. Something about hate, I feel something about hate. I feel like hate is the cusp of love. And I know you've heard it before, but never in this context. You say people who are homophobic want to love. What about people who are racist, who see my skin tint and feel angry? Is that not about love? What happened? I could see an ancestor in him that just wanted to love. And then I think about all the times I've heard of interracial couples being ripped apart. Did that happen to someone in history? That he would look at me with something so primal, but because of the way he was brought up, his emotions were felt through the filter of rage. Is that too much to does that make sense to is that too much to say? And then I'm thinking about how people came around in search for a better life. So maybe the pain he was feeling is because he was known, but in the past his ancestors caused strife. I think people saw how peaceful it was before life came to his head. I mean, there wasn't even a word. No, I'm thinking about iPad. But I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a word for lie before peaceful came now that I think about it. Yeah, just thinking about it. And because it's like, or like maybe like, or maybe he just wanted to feel, maybe there's someone who like, I wanna like just dress not like in drag of my gender. You know what I mean? Like in drag, like in gender drag. Cause I was just wearing sweatpants and like a t-shirt, but like that's not really. But like being 6 foot tall, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Like I don't like because like I don't know what that even means. Like, cause I've always just worn like either like leggings or like a t-shirt. Like I've never been the one to like actually like wear dresses because I just never really liked the way that it felt. Um, I mean I would now. Like I got some dresses like whenever I was in my internship, and that was like fun to like get dressed up and stuff. Like I don't hate it. I'm just saying like maybe that's how he's feeling too. Like he like maybe sometimes he wants to like. But it really like to be so clear, like and I've talked about this before I think, but this specific encounter, it genuinely felt like I was seeing into his soul, like seeing into his past lives, and in one of them, like in his like ancestral lineage, like and in one of his ancestors' lives, like like there was actual like love, not just like taking, you know what I mean? Like there was like actual like love, and like it was taken away, and so like it made it that much easier for the indoctrination of whatever kind of racism or prejudice that is perpetuated in that town that I was in to sink in that much deeper because like you know what I mean? Cause like it sticks to something, you know? Like it sticks to something. It's like a biological, you know, like you know like those diseases in like sci-fi where they're like, or probably in real life that we'll find out in like 50 years or something, where like it targets specific races and like the melanin in their skin or certain components of like what kind of gives certain racial features and then it attaches to those. I feel like that's what like racism and like homophobia does is because the reason why it attaches so specifically to white people on the belief, but other races can be racist too. Like, and but I think it attaches to like it has to attach to something. I'm trying to say like no matter what race it is, even if it's like you know, even if it's not white, like it attaches to pain in the system. And if they and when people are given the opportunity to talk through you know what they feel about things and to actually question why they're angry whenever they get angry, like through like therapy at a young age and like just like having that normal conversational like I feel like this and it hurts because of this, like learning how to actually do that. um I think that that is really what is like kind of like the prerequisite, and then the thing that actually exposes them to that disease, whether it be whether it be through their environment growing up or through like the internet. I think that you know those painful things kind of stick more, and it's also like this like um whenever you have an open wound, because those things also leave open wounds. Like you like when people are talking about like well I don't know when people are talking about like ancestral healing and healing from your past lives, that actually like so so true because like okay I don't know about like I've never done ashwagandha in the forest or whatever, but I think that just because like I'm really 20 years old, like I've done shrooms before, but anyway, but like I've never really had an experience on like oh my gosh this is so like I've never like done the whole ashwagandha in the forest, like you know what I mean, but I have like felt certain things where I'm like oh like you can definitely feel certain things, like for example whenever I was younger, on St. Patrick's Day I would always be like I'm Irish. Like I just know I'm Irish. Like this is my tea. Like well not my tea maybe, but like this is like this is like I'm Irish. But like my mom would always like because like I don't really know my biological grandpa and like biological grandma on her side. So she was always like, no, you're not like you're Italian on her side. And then I found out later, like, no, like, I'm Italian and I'm Irish. And I also know that it was mainly my grandpa. But just by, I've seen a picture from him, and I can just feel that, like, he's Irish. And you can also just tell when my grandma, like, oh, like, she's just, like, very Italian. But yeah, so we know certain things, we can feel it. And I personally believe that we can feel all the way back to, like, the start of life. And so that's why I think so many people are just going through the motions and holding on to these chaotic whirlwinds of belief systems because they are already feeling that from the second they were never granted the opportunity to speak, to think. Because thinking starts, a lot of really important abilities to critically think doesn't start in the classroom, it starts internally. It starts with thinking about how you feel. And I feel like a lot of classroom environments, like, yes, sometimes, like, how are we feeling today, class, like, happy, sad, but, like, that's not really, like, taught, like, and, like, that was, like, mainly, like, elementary school stuff, like, I remember. So, like, that is the opportunity that is taken away from people a lot of times, is, like, from, like, that is such an important thing. And, like, just because it's, like, something that they, like, some might not have, doesn't mean you can never do it. I'm just saying, like, I think that is I know that is the reason why a lot of people go through life just flipping off random people at gas stations because they're black, or setting their hair on fire because they're androgynous, or black, or queer. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, right. It's because they literally don't know how to think. Like, and I think that I always want to say I think that they know this, but it just feels so intentional sometimes. But I don't even think that they know this because they don't do it. There's no way that you could perpetuate such a painful system of child slavery in Africa, in Congo, in sweatshops in India. Like, there's no way that, in, like, genocides in Palestine, there's no way that you could perpetuate something like that and then also know how to speak through your feelings. You feel me? So it's like they don't even know. But, like, it feels so, it's so purposefully painful. And I guess you could say that's in the way of nature. For example, plants developed caffeine so that bugs don't eat them. And because it kills bugs. Or, like, some plants are just straight up poisonous. And, well, to, like, everyone. And it's so deliberate in evolution, because everything has evolution, you feel me? So, like, even hatred, even violence, it it festers like an infection, like a virus, and it's still something that's alive, even though it doesn't seem like it should be. So I think that's kind of what I'm feeling, is like, even though it's, like, not something that's specifically purposeful by the people who are perpetuating it, it is something that's purposeful in the nature of what it is, because it wants to survive. It is something that is living. It is a pandemic, and pandemics are things that are sicknesses. And a sickness is a virus or a disease, something that lives off of killing people, or killing, or taking resources. Parasitic. Parasites are alive. And even though their host is feeding them, they're still in pain, and they still don't exactly, it's not like they're doing it on purpose, but they're like, like, say someone has, this is making such good sense. But yeah, that's a good way to put it, you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, like, I guess you don't even need therapy, because it's like, well, okay, well, you, like, it would be cool if, like, everyone, like, talked to someone, but I know it costs money, so, like, I don't know, I guess things that I've learned that kind of helped, I guess. I'm not saying I'm perfect, I'm just saying, like, I'm never saying, no, perfection is kind of, like, the only thing that could ever be perfect is a stone, you feel me? Because it's like, it has nothing to, like, it is there. And I guess you could say, I guess you could say that's not actually true either, because energies and like stones and rocks and stuff, they can be altered, changed, healed, you know what I mean? But and but yeah, basically my point is like perfection isn't something to strive for ever because perfection is obsolete. I guess. That's what it is. It's like putting sand on something that's water. Like perfection is weird. I don't know. I just think that that word is very very sweet. But yeah, and like and like people not understanding as well. Like when people don't like for example like say like people who have never experienced racism not knowing how actually like dangerous it can be, like how that person could have like been going home and getting like people or whatever the fuck. Like people also like that's also a symptom of like the parasitic infect. Yeah, that sounds so intense. But it's also the symptom of like a virus, a sickness. Is like a lack of empathy or a lack of able to understanding what the black, brown, Asian experience is like. Like that's a sickness to not be able to like care in that sense. Like because I think it makes people uncomfortable. It's like to acknowledge something that sinister to still exist, that kind of hate and fear to still exist would be I think to a lot of people it feels like they're admitting that they're a bad person. But it's like if you're not as long as you're not like as long as you're working towards a solution and not a part of the problem, so like you don't have to worry, I guess. And working towards a solution means healing. Doesn't mean like doing something that you feel like you shouldn't or can't do. It means like you're feeling through your emotions and doing what you feel like you want to do about it. Because all of our voices matter. And that's another reason why it feels so purposeful because it's like whenever they don't teach you how to talk about how you're feeling, they don't teach you how to speak. It takes away it takes away a kind of confidence, I guess. Like not a, well, yes, a kind of confidence, like to talk about how you're feeling. Because I feel like a lot of people don't because they don't know how yet. Or like just feel like they've been told like for example, whenever I was little, we had this thing where we would like we passed around a paper, and in my middle school class, I would get in trouble because like I would raise my hand all the time, bro. Even whenever I knew the answer, or it was just like a question, like I just wanted to like I just like really wanted validation. Like I was going through like I'm not like exactly like that's my exact point. Like I was like you feel me? There was a reason why I was in therapy so young, but yeah, I just wanted validation. And my teacher would be like, "Girl, you already know the answer. Why are you asking me?" And I'd be like, "I just want to make sure." And then we had this thing at the end of the year where we passed around this paper and everyone wrote something nice about each other, and it's still hung up on my dad's fridge, and I look at it sometimes. And there was this one kid who wrote, um, "Ava, you are a five upper that helps everything go right. Like, thanks for that," or something like that. Like a five upper, and I just for a long time I was like, what does that even mean? Whenever I first read it again, and then I was like, five, like raising your hand. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. But then I thought about it more. It's like being afraid to raise your hand, and it's like that's not without reason. It's because of the way that um you know I saw was this a video or what was this? I think it was a TikTok where someone was like made like a short film about the differences between like a kitchen conversation or table conversation where one kid is dismissed and another kid is indulged in what they're trying to talk about, and how that turns out differently, and how one kid is able to ask more questions and the other doesn't even feel like that's a real thing. You know what I mean? Because they're just always told, like if you never know what's on the other end of because I said so, then you never, like, it becomes harder to ask other people. It becomes harder to ask the authoritarians that are standing in front of the classroom every single day that you cannot miss or you would get in trouble with the law. You feel me? So it's like that's very scary for a child. And also knowing like and like that, because that's just the way it feels emotionally. Like it can be the best teacher ever, but you still know that you can't leave, and that has a psychological impact. And if a child doesn't know how to talk to their own parents, how are they going to ask questions in school? If the child isn't allowed, then maybe their parents haven't had the opportunity to talk, and so maybe they don't even think about the interviews, and they just don't want to talk to the child about it because they don't know how. And the cycle just continues and continues. Like that's what I'm freaking saying. Like a virus, like a parasite, like this, like violence. Because then it propels certain like it propels people to like just go into a job that they don't really care about, um, and work their entire life because they're told their entire life that death and taxes are the only two real things that are ever like that are gonna be like um constant, and they never ask why. They never ask like even just this like the fact that taxes like we are taxed without representation. Like literally right now, and nothing is happening about it. I remember learning so much up and down the fucking wall about taxation representation, about the fucking Boston Tea Party, and now, like that's literally been happening for who knows how long, and like nobody asks questions about it. No one in the House of Representatives, no one in Congress, like no president has ever said a shit about it, about how we don't get to choose what we are billed for, about the wars and the genocide that our dollars go to. That's not democracy in the slightest. A true democracy. And I remember learning about like true democracy, I guess, in like Rome, a little bit about it, like Sparky, where they would like in like college. Which I'm kind of thinking about going back, but I also don't want to though, because I'm just irritated. I'm irritated because I don't want to move away. And the college that I'm already in, well, I kind of applied quit, but they still email me all the fucking time. So I'm sure I could log in that portal and start taking classes, but I just feel like, well, they don't email me, it's just automated. I'm still on that automated stuff, you know what I mean? But, oh, my advisor emailed me, but, I don't carry that same, like, they email me all the fucking time. Like, I don't feel that way about the real people who are actually texting me. But, like, I'm still on their email list, basically, is my point. And I don't know, but I just feel irritated because it's like everything that they show us is like literally on just like a you get my point. I've talked about this so much already, um but it's like yeah, I don't know. I just wanna like go to someone who's native and learn things about plants from them or something. Like because I've also thought like I was like, well okay, I could anyway. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this because you know what I mean. It's not something to like be down about, I guess, because it's like, because like those things, like I don't know, that I don't know, like it's just like it's just not something I want to dwell on for real. Like I've thought about like I'm 20, like I said, I got accepted to college when I was 18, and just like a community college, well not community, wait, what is it? I don't know what that. I'm probably a community college, I think, with a high acceptance rate basically, and with a real anyway. No, we can talk about that later. But yeah, anyway, yeah, just kind of feels like it feels like education even like learning knowledge. It feels like it's so tainted because it's like, what do you mean you're teaching us about taxation and representation, but that's not even, like, why aren't you telling us about how that's not happening right now? Do you know what I mean? And this is like middle school and stuff like that, whenever we were learning about stuff like that. But or like the way that the brains work, like whenever I was in Psych 101, I don't know, it just always felt like, at least with the college I was in, it just felt like, or the classes that I've taken, it just felt like, you know, you're just being told a bunch of stuff, and then it's like, memorize this, but it's like, is any of this real? You know what I mean? What is the point of telling someone about how people fought for the sky being blue whenever people just argue that it's purple sometimes? Anyway. Like whenever the same systems that they're teaching us about argue, like the system's arguing that it's purple sometimes, and just like bro, what the fuck? But this kind of makes me feel some type of way whenever I hear people talking about like, oh, like you gotta go to college, or like in shows and stuff like that. It's like educated, da 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 da. It's like, bro, because like, is that even real education? If the point is to just teach you how to do one specific thing, but never look outside the bounds of it. You know what I mean? Like take, like, do you know that? Remember that guy who quit being a doctor? Like, that's what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, wasn't he talking about like how he felt like he couldn't even actually heal people? He went through all that school to be a doctor, and it's like they weren't even like letting him help. They and like, I didn't watch the whole video, but like I've just like heard summaries because like that video blew up, bro. I just remember seeing it for the first time, and I was like, and it was like whenever it had like no views almost. I just looked at the thumbnail, I was like, bro, period. Eat your shit, bro. But yeah, that's just how I'm feeling right now, guys. Also, oh, I talked about, um, like my opinions on like, age gaps. I don't remember why exactly, but I talked about it in one of my TikToks. I just wanted to say, in case you found this for somehow, because this isn't the YouTube that I have linked on my TikTok. But I think I actually have this one linked in my other YouTube channel, so period. Okay. Anyway, basically, if you watch that video, the way that I feel, the reason why I feel like around 20, because I said, I was like, I only think that you should be able to, and maybe I said this in a video too, but I can't remember. I don't think that I mentioned this being the reason why I feel this way. Because what I said didn't really make sense, and I've actually been thinking about it. But I said that, well, okay, so basically I was talking about how it's messed up that, like, you don't really have, like, you're still a child, basically, until you're in, like, your, like, 30s. Like, until you're, like, at 30 at least. Even though in my heart, I feel like I don't really like the whole age spectrum thingy. I just feel like, you know better. Like, people know better. You know what I mean? Like, don't get with someone who isn't your age. Like, I feel like you can just, like, kind of tell when someone is not in your age group. Anyway, but I just feel like you should be able to, like, I feel like this is another, it's like gender. You know what I mean? Like, calling yourself a certain number, a certain level of life. You know what I mean? But that does feel a little bit like a sticky situation because it's like, I don't want people to be like, oh, age is just a number. No, no, no. Not like that, okay? Not like that. When it comes to like that, you guys to find out if it's right or wrong. But anyway, let's see. Anyway. But yeah, I have no more stuff to say. I actually want to hear it. This is so bad. I will say it. Well, I was talking about my phone is about to die. I was talking about how I think that it's weird, and I thought about even more that. Update on my thoughts. Okay, I think that the reason why pedophiles even exist is because people are told that, oh my god, my phone is so fucking loud. Maybe I shouldn't play it. Hold on. Dang it, hold on. Well, because people are told that once someone is 18, like an 80-year-old can be with them, like legally in the legal system. But when someone is 17, you'd go to jail if you were 80 and getting someone. I think that's why that exists, is because the general notion of just like, hey, don't date someone who's a lifetime younger than you, isn't like promoted. And like also like people don't like you shouldn't be able to like be perceived as an adult whenever you're still very young, like whenever your brain isn't even like scientifically even fully developed. Like fully developed in the ways of like your prefrontal cortex and it's a capacity to function, if that makes sense. Because I still feel like people like Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu, like they aren't developed, but like they have the capacity in their brain to know to be an adult, to be grown as fuck. Like anyway, if that makes sense, then that makes sense. But I could talk about that more later when my phone goes about to die. So like they're still like grown, but they're just like not developed, and they shouldn't be with a child. I want to make that very fucking clear. Because their difference in development isn't specifically in naivety, it's in hate and the way that manipulates the brain. It's like being drunk, for example. Like if someone older is drunk, it doesn't mean that they're at the same wavelength as a 16-year-old. And if they're like 28, it just means that they're incoherent. Okay, anyway. Ew, oh my god. That makes me upset to think about. Anyway, and just because someone looks old enough, oh my god, no, we can talk about this later. Because my phone's doing that today, I'm trying to get to my actual like point talking about this. Because basically the reason why I said, because I was like, I think 3 years younger than me and then 6 years older than me would be like an appropriate age distance for me personally. And the reason why I said 3 years is because I'm 20 and it wouldn't be cool if I was with someone who was 6 years younger than me. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, but that's why I just kind of want to talk about it, because it's like kind of didn't really make sense. Because it's like, what do you mean 3? but yeah, because it's kind of different, I feel like, whenever you're at an age like where I am right now, because I've barely been alive for that long. So like that many years younger than me is like kind of a lot. Anyway, these pants are so every time I see these pants I'm like, oh my gosh, they're not gonna be comfy, but they're actually so freaking comfy. It's actually crazy. I got them from TJ Maxx, and they're Halloween ones, and they're so soft too. Anyway, but then I thought about it more. It's like I wouldn't really even want to be with someone who's 3 years younger than me. But it's like I wouldn't judge someone for being with someone who's 3 years younger than them at my age. So yeah. Anyway.